What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Fit Fat Dad podcast, coming at you with episode 2, the podcast where it's two dads. Blair, what's up, brother?
What's up, man?
And me, Graham, and we're two kind of fit, kind of fat dads, and we're going to talk all things dad. And kind of the new motto we have here is, fit enough to be hard enough to kill, but fat enough to love comfortably.
That's right.
Because
Squishy.
Blair, squish, you don't want to be so lean that nobody really like the ladies think that they want that, but they don't want that.
Yeah, no.
You gotta have some meat on the. That's why they're called love handles.
That's right. That's right.
And
Yeah,
boy,
hey, the best pillows aren't hard. They're just not.
absolutely. And I have plenty of love handles.
That's right.
Maybe that's why my wife chose me. Anyways, people don't care to hear that, so we are bringing to you episode 2. And right now it's untitled because, again, we're just going to launch into the sphere of great conversation, and where it goes, it'll go.
Well, we definitely started this one a lot faster than the last one.
Hey, tech issues, we got that, baby.
That's right.
We watched what I would say, Blair, is we watched the game film.
That's right.
And we learned from it.
Absolutely.
Game film's never comfortable. There's coaches always yelling at you because you've got a minus.
Right.
I think we got a few positives. There were a lot of minuses, so we got a lot of work to clean up, and hopefully we get better at it. We'll see. Game film, the eye in the sky never lies, brother. I'm just letting you know that. So hey, we'll go ahead and kick off before we absolutely derail, because you and I can definitely derail. A new segment to the show that we'll probably see if it works. We'll call it the hashtag Dad Life Moment. And Blair, what better hashtag Dad Life moment than the poop in your life? So tell me about the poop in your life from a dad perspective, brother. Let's tease it a little bit.
Okay. So I'm gonna follow this up. Who handles the poop? I think your boys are potty trained now, right?
Oh, there's plenty of poop.
Okay.
It's still there.
So, in our house, I handle all things poop. Like there's no debate, right? Unless I'm out of town, which I think my kids save it up for when I'm out of town because I get scathing phone calls and texts that it always happens. So anyways, my daughter, she is this petite, tiny, little almost 3-year-old. And she loaded one up the other day. I mean, loaded one up in her little underwear panties, right? And my wife was like, "There's no way!" Like she was gagging. I mean, it was bad. So I had a choice to make. How am I going to clean this up? If they're not too bad, what do? You kind of rinse them off and things like this one. This was so bad, I had to put it in the tub. Like I had literally had to put it in the tub. And then I was like, I really don't want to put my hands on this and clean this. So guess what I did?
Threw her in there.
Yeah. No, I went to the garage. I found an old curtain rod that we hadn't used. Not gonna lie, man. I pushed that thing around the toilet or around the tub, scrubbing it with the thing under the hot water, trying to get it all off. Multiple ways to clean up poop. That's all I gotta say.
Man, I would, because I snuck my wife the original copy of the Fit Fat Dad podcast, episode 1.
Nice.
So she may be a subscriber. So she's going to be listening to this, and I've got to put the ball in her court. She has an immunity to poop like you would not believe.
Well, she grew up on a farm, right?
Grew up on a farm, and it's no big deal to her. But I'm not like in your household. I have, I am responsible for a lot of that cleanup. And now it's getting to where, Riggs is 4, and he by name screams for who he wants, the wipage on the
right.
On the pot. and it's gotten to the point where I'll be, let's face it, the world is a lot of virtual work. I'll be on a work call, and it's Dad, wipe my butt, wipe my butt. And if you don't respond in a certain amount of time, it's only a matter of time before he's off the potty and he's running around the house, and it is little Jaybird running around the house, and he's looking for you to wipe his butt. He will come and find you. So the poop comes and finds me. So that's
That's
It's a
life, right?
little teaser action for the poop in your life. But you actually have some really good points about the poop in your life. And you want to tease this up for the future?
Well, yeah. I mean, I think there's everybody's going to have poop in their life, and it's going to come very unexpectedly. Just like with kids, and everybody has different roles in how that poop is cleaned up. You lean on different people, and some people have to take it on and bear that poop themselves. Um, and that's all I'm going to say because I don't
I
want it to go.
love how you just got serious with poop right now.
Yeah, yeah.
The
So
symbolism in the poo.
that's
All right,
right,
so
man.
episode 3 is poop. Tune in, I guess maybe. So, uh, anyways, we got that out of the way. Dad life, that we'll have to craft that up. But anyways, Blair, I'll kick it over to you, brother, and give you the steering wheel today, and let you drive.
Awesome, man. Well, so okay, so episode 1, you posed questions to me, Graham. So we got to know Blair a little bit. So Graham in my life. Let's talk about how I met Graham. So I am a business owner, own a gym, and we get website leads, right? So we get website leads. So I get this website lead. Was it 5, 6 years ago, 7 years ago? I
It's
can't
been a
remember.
minute.
So, okay, we're old. We can't remember. So I get his website lead, and it's I think it's AJ Lemon or Andrea Lemon or something. So I pick up the phone and I call, and I speak to your wife. She's like, "Who is this?"
Yeah,
And you had put in her number to have me call you.
yeah.
So thank you for that, marketing guy.
What
Um,
a non cowardice way of doing that. Making your wife answer the questions.
that's right. That's
You're
right.
calling back.
So we set a consultation, and so I'm like, all right, cool. Got my time, and I remember the first time you and Andrea walked through the door, and it was like, all right, I'm a big boy. That's a large man, and that is a very athletic female. Okay, how am I going to trade? How am I going to convince these two athletes to come and join our program? And you did, and we became best friends, and it's a lot of memories since then. But anyways, that's how I met Graham, actually known as G Money.
G
Um,
money, baby.
that's right, G Money. So, how would you describe yourself? I think you gave me 3 words the other day. I'm only going to give you one. I'm going to make it a little bit tougher.
One word.
One
Well,
word.
you can't contain me to one word, and so, but so let me reframe this a little bit. Instead of what Graham defines himself as, I'm going to link it back to passion and purpose and what God has defined for me, and that word leader. And that's what I aspire to be, because that's where I truly believe God has had me. That's where he wants me to be. That's where I get fulfillment in life. And there's a lot of spiritual gifts that a lot of people have, and that's one of leadership that I have. It comes natural. He's given me a spotlight to do that, and um, it's in every area of my life. I've been put into a leadership position, and that's the position that I strive for. And from playing sports is probably where it started. Youth league, high school to college, I've always been put in a position of whether that's team captain or whatever. And my thought process for that has changed, because early on, it's more about what you think as leadership as kind of self driven. I've got to be the hardest worker in the room. I know where I'm going, going to take people with me. And that's kind of the first stage of life of leadership. But as I've gotten older, the leadership has changed into how can I make other people better? How can I pour into people? And I think a lot of that comes with maturity, growth, and experience. And a lot of that's just really changed. But I've had those roots there that God has provided for me. And when I lean into that, that's when I get a lot of fulfillment. So leader is the one word that I would use to describe. And that's my compass north of where I want to go. There's probably some people out there that say, yeah, man, great leader. And there's probably some people out there that says, hey, man, that dude's sorry. But that's okay, because we're all there to get better. And
Haters are going to hate, man. Haters are going
haters
to hate.
going to hate. And there's been moments in my life where I've not fulfilled that. But that's the word that I'd like to, aspire to be, and that's the new due north for me. So
I love it. Well, I would 100% agree with you on that. You
look at
know,
you.
it's you know, it's hard to lead, and I think you do change over time, because leading from the front is, um, it's not easy, and I think people are going to look at you and they're try to poke holes, and you got to have your armor up. And I think, God gives people these talents. God gives you talents to be leaders because I think He knows you can handle the arrows that are going to be shot at you. Like that's my opinion. Whether people agree with it or not, that's my opinion on things.
Yeah, for sure.
Um, okay, well, let's talk about. Okay, so we're talking about leaders, and I would agree with that. So being a dad, you're being a leader, right? So let's do this. What's the best thing about being a dad, G? Like what would you boil that down?
The best thing about being a dad,
Yeah.
that is a loaded question and a lot to unpack. I would say the joy and the transformation of your heart. And that's to me something that you can't explain to other dads. I mean, you explain it to other dads, but other men that aren't dads, you can't explain what a child does to your heart and how it just makes it so full. And it's literally your child is you transformed, a creation from God in flesh right there before your eyes. And so while it's scary, the task is you're ultimately responsible for the providing, the health, and early on, Blair, even now, when they're babies, totally you are responsible for keeping somebody alive. No pressure. No
No
pressure. And I
pressure.
want to go on record as of today, I'm 100% success rate at keeping a child alive. But I mean, to me, it was the transformation of my heart, and my heart seems to just get bigger and bigger every day. And the older they get and the more things that they can accomplish or do, that amazes me. And that is the best part about being the dad. And that makes all the poop, all the peeing on the walls, the writing on the walls, the Vaseline on the walls, the endless Legos that have been inserted under my toenails or stepped on, and that makes it worth it. So that to me is best part about being a dad. What about you, Blair? What's the best part for you?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's I agree with you. The heart, and I think how you view the world a little bit changes,
Absolutely.
um, and it changes in a very positive way because the things that I used to let bother me, they don't bother me anymore, right? And I think I changed and realized that while things can frustrate me, it's gonna be okay. Because I used to
Mhm.
take things and man, it would frustrate me and it would fester just like a splinter, that you just can't get out. And things that would make me mad. Now, hey, we're gonna roll the punches. Because I mean, I think
Yeah.
as a dad, I think as a dad, that's all you can do, right?
Yeah.
They're gonna mess up, they're gonna do something, but you know what? Even after you discipline them, they're gonna come crawl in your lap and tell you they love you. And that's, man, it's harder it is for me to discipline my kids, and because I don't want to hurt their feelings and I don't want to make them cry. But we got to teach them.
Mhm.
They're gonna come up and crawl in your lap, and they're gonna tell you, "I love you, Daddy. I love you, Dad." And just those moments, I mean, it really softened my heart
Mhm.
and taught me in real life, it'll be okay. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It will be okay, no matter how big that moment is at that time. You'll get through it. You'll be
Yeah.
okay. That's not the end of the world.
Would you say, and for those dads listening out there, that being a dad, having children, has made you a better leader?
Oh, absolutely.
And how
100%.
how so? Break that out.
Oh, I would say has made me understand what support really means.
Mhm.
Like, what does it mean to support somebody? Not only in the work environment, or excuse me, but in the work environment, but from a work, hey, can I support you on the work things? But can I support you in life? Like, instead of, hey, how are you doing today, from a work question, it's, hey, how are you doing personally? Right?
Mhm.
Works over here, and because I know as a leader, if I'm pouring into my team and their personal life is growing and they're growing spiritually and they're growing and other things, and they're happy outside of work, what's going to happen? They're going to come in and do a great job. And I want to support that side as well as being, that support role, and try to lead them from the front and teach them from experience. So I think that's the big thing that having children has done for me, is redefining support.
Yeah, patience is a virtue. That for me is probably the number one thing. And let's be honest, as my kids get older and they do things that they're not supposed to do, I get a little more irritated, but there's still this level of innocence that they have, and you can completely overlook everything. And all it takes is like I'm saying, that one thing where they own your heart and it turns around. But that's carried over into daily people that I come into contact with, the people that I work with, the teams that I lead, and it's you learn as a dad how to course correct behavior that's in a way that they can understand it, and
Mhm.
to your point, not getting away where you've beaten them down, and it comes off in an encouraging way. And that's truly how we should lead, as you mentioned, in business, to our brothers, to other people in the world, because it's a gentle and firm approach. And it's not, I mean, I'm sure there's dads out there that just, they've grown up themselves with a dad that just let them have it. Here comes somebody said something the other day, kids would be so better if they had to hear the sound of the belt coming out and coming through the belt loops. Sometimes that's needed, right? I'm not saying that it's not
Yeah.
needed, but if that's all you're you're like a whip dog, and you're not doing things to get better. You're just doing things because somebody's leading you with a heavy hand. And so I think that's just patience. That
Yep.
in itself has led that as well. So we'll keep the train moving here, Blair.
Yeah. I like it. I like it. All right. So I got another one for you, G.
Okay.
Okay. So how's becoming a dad changed your faith? So we're talking about changing leaders. How's it change your faith?
Yeah, great question. So I could probably spend an hour and a half on this topic alone. And while it's all great, people don't have an hour and a half. They
And you have car lot.
and I have pickup line again. So it's interesting because prior to having kids, I had faith, but I wasn't walking in faith. And so I see God using the whole circumstance of my situation and part of my testimony as increasing my faith. And I'm not going to get into that. We'll share that as another episode. But my perspective prior to kids was a self serving perspective. Even through marriage at that point, when you're married and you have a wife, I'll readily admit, still about Graham, because that's where I was. Everything that I had ever accomplished, I felt like it was just Graham, and Graham had to do it, and Graham had to be the hardest worker in the room, and in a really competitive nature would get jealous about other people that would be on my, competing with me, and I had to, and it would tear me apart. And it was just a very self-driven, self-focused, and I had a lot of pride. And that changed around the time that we were trying to have children, and some things, had to happen that only God could do. And I realized it wasn't about Graham, and there was somebody out, God looking out for me. And you could unload a lot of that onto his shoulders and let him carry your yoke. And that changed my perspective. And I've had a lot of experience since then that were only God made, only God can define them. And even when I say it, people don't believe me, those stories, and I'll share those in other episodes, but that helped strengthen my faith. And so I don't want to say that I didn't have faith prior to children, because I definitely did, but I wasn't walking in it. And now as kids, it continually strengthens my faith. And hey, let's just talk about the miracle of childbirth. The whole thing,
Hey,
until you experience, hey man, you take it for granted, and then you realize when you break it down, and we're not, because we got kids, and of how it happens, it doesn't make any sense whatsoever.
Yep.
And just the fact that, I mean, lineage, right? That is biblical based, and there's so much lineage, and you start thinking about things that you've never thought about prior to being a dad. And so I would absolutely say uh, having children has just extremely strengthened my faith, and that has, and I'm glad it happened when it did, because now there's people in the world that actually 100% depend on me.
Yeah.
And I know ultimately God's in control, but I'm a huge influence in my two sons' lives, and I'm going to have to shape their perspectives on things, and I'm going to be the one that has to, at least get them in that arena of, hey, here's some things. And at the end of the day, there's a lot to teach them. But if my sons know that Jesus is their savior and they believe that and they accept that, then the rest is going to fall into place. It's just
Absolutely.
reassuring and getting them geared in that path, because I know there's a lot ahead of me in dad experience, that there's going to be situations that we're going to have to walk down and uncover. And if they're anything like me and probably like you, Blair, in our lives, it's going to be a lot of difficult conversations. But if their foundation is there, they can always know how to get back there, because, uh, you know, I grew up with a foundation, but I didn't understand it. I would say I looked at it as more religion and law. And if I didn't do that, there was consequence.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not what it's about. It's about a relationship. And it's, even though we mess up, we have grace, and it's the pursuit of continually to be great and continually to get back on the horse. And that's why we have grace, because God knows we're going to mess up. And don't put yourself in this dark spot. Keep driving, keep moving, keep going on. And that's what I want my kids to know and understand. And I wouldn't say I had that prior to being a father. And so I'm glad I do now. I'm glad all that happened. And
Man,
you
that's
know,
powerful stuff, dude. I,
hey, we're letting it roll, baby.
I couldn't have said that any better. Any
Preach,
better.
preacher.
Yeah, that's right. Okay. So, all right. So, what was your? Let me ask you this: What was your perspective on? But before becoming a dad, what was your perspective of dads, like and father figures, and how has that changed now that you do have children?
That is a lot to unpack. Not
I
a
think you
simple
said that
answer.
like 5 times.
You're, hey, I'm trying to keep this not heavy, but everything goes heavy. That's where we're at. So I would be honest with you. I really didn't have a perspective of dads.
Okay.
What I would say is I love my dad 100%, but my perspective is how my dad raised me, and I just really didn't care about what other dads. It's just not on my radar,
Yeah.
because you're not experiencing that. You're not living that, and so it's. I would probably, you can understand why at this point, pre-dad, why those that had kids wouldn't go out with you to the bar, and or
Yep.
they had to go home at 9 o'clock, and you're like, come on, man, let's stay out till midnight, let's party time, let's blah blah blah, like let's celebrate life and just live in the moment, and yada yada yada. That's probably my perspective. And if I'm being honest with you, I probably made fun of them because they weren't doing that. But I didn't know. I didn't understand. And then when
Right.
that happens to you, man, reality sets in. And let's just be clear: there's a lot of great dads out there, a lot of great dads, and they're trying to figure out the grind, and they're trying to figure out how to be a good husband, how to be a good father, how to maintain their status at work, but also elevate themselves in work, how to stay fit, how to eat healthy. And when you start adding that dad layer on, and with one child and then another child, and in your case, three, and then there's some that have, like, hey, they've been blessed with lots of lineage coming up. It
Dr.
gets
O.
Dr. O,
Dr. O.
uh, which is a local doctor in town. He'll be a guest on the show. But you start to think that's a lot, and things start to slip, and it's hard to keep up with that, and it can get overwhelming, and it's easy to get into a space where you just stop being a great dad. And so I'm hoping that what we share, it can be some encouraging lessons to some of the dads out there, and just keep moving on, right? Like, it's just get out of bed the next day, put your shoes on, and face whatever circumstances come, whether it's poop on the wall or, dad wipe my butt on a Teams call. It's life, man. And those are the best moments. Those are the best moments that you can have. So I will say my perspective now, you just relate. Like
Yeah,
now as dads, there's like a secret dad code, like the mind vibe. Like
that's right.
you can tell when a dad is having a bad day,
That's right.
straight up. And his day probably woke up at 5:30 a.m. like a dog, poop rolling across the floor, that
Yep,
they've got
yep.
it cleaned up. They probably broke their toe tripping on a Lego. Their wife's probably mad at them because the house isn't clean. They probably not connected with their wife on any level of intimate level or emotional level in 4 weeks because there's a kid in the bed. So you begin to understand, like,
What it means. That's
hey
right.
man,
Dad life.
here's a cup of coffee. You don't even have to say anything. Let's just sit here and not talk. And they're
Not
going to be like, hallelujah.
or they'll
Uh,
grunt.
yeah. Be like, not that another dad would say, I love you, brother, but that's what they mean, man.
Yeah,
You know what I'm saying?
that's
That's
right.
so loaded answer, but that would be my perspective.
Yeah, no, I think you hit the nail on the head. There's there is a lot of good dads out there and a lot of great dads, and I was blessed to have a great father figure in my life, and
Me too.
I don't think I understood what it meant. Right, I think growing up now that I had two kids and a third one of my own, like are coming. I don't think I really understood what he was doing
Hmm.
in my life at any given time, and now I do.
Yep.
Now I do. I understand the tough love, and
Yep.
I understand why there were parameters when I was growing up. And it was, hey, I'm going to let you live, but we're going to live within boundaries,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
And I get that now. And reflecting on it, I look back and I'm like, this is what he was going through. Like he was going through all this of financial, connecting with my mom, everything
Hmm.
that you just talked about. Unless you have kids, I think it's really hard to understand that aspect of a marriage, of just life in general. Um, and yeah, that's where my perspective really, really, really changed.
Yeah.
It's high reward, but it is not easy.
Yeah.
It's not an easy job, man.
How many times have you told yourself, because my dad disciplined me this way, I will never discipline my children that way? And then you say something and you're like, I was my dad. My dad said that all the time. And then it clicks to what you're saying. It's, man, dad was right. And it's
Yeah,
just that moment of, it's this humbling moment where you realize that the thing as a kid, because you didn't have the perspective of all that your dad was managing at the time, but you just knew your dad was giving you the business and you couldn't understand it. And you just were like, dad won't get off my case. And then it happens to you and you have that moment of like, dad was right.
that's right.
It's a very humbling moment.
So I've got a really good example
Share it,
of,
brother.
of that. So manners are huge in my family, and I remember growing up, man, if I didn't say yes sir or no sir or yes
Bingo.
ma'am or no ma'am, my dad corrected me every single time. He still corrects me. I mean,
Yep.
to this day, he still corrects me. So that's a big thing in our family too. It's a respect thing, and it's just funny. Like my kids are 5 and 2 right now. I mean, if it's yeah or no, it's yes sir, no sir, yes sir. They're doing that kind of even at that age, rolling their eyes,
Right.
yes sir,
Yes,
yes
sir.
ma'am, please. But he was right. Being instilled this, at fixing to be 40 years old, and we'll be 39 this year. Just talking to people, and I get it all the time. You don't have to call me ma'am. I'm your same age. And I'm like, wait a minute. Yes, I do. That's the way I was raised.
Yep.
And if
The
and I
respect.
I tell that story. If he was sitting right here and I said, yeah, he's going to be like, yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. And so I don't know. I just think that's one of the things that it's funny at the time. I hated when he did that. I hated it,
Mhm.
but
Mhm.
he
Yeah.
was right. It's awesome.
And one of those moments too is, what I do on a day job, working with the U.S. military men and women, great Americans. hey, it's yes, ma'am, no, ma'am, yes, sir, no, sir. I never thought to that. Getting back to your point, that's how my dad raised me too.
Yeah.
I've been doing the job I'm in now for a decade, and it's like, wow, that was some really good training because I didn't realize I'd be using it for the last 10
Yeah,
years
that's
and,
right.
how to use in that circumstances. So,
It's just
yeah,
natural now.
natural now, man. Natural, 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 natural.
Well, man, well, dude, hey, we're up at 30 minutes, boss, and I know
Well,
you
hey,
got
buddy.
car line. So, I guess what episode 3, all things poop.
All things poop. And speaking of poop, which is its own episode, there's a whole other episode of Parent Pickup Line
I like
and
it.
the craziness. And there's some dads right now saying, brother, I would strangle some people right now in Parent Pickup Line. I am going to get a video and just record what happens at Parent Pickup Line.
Please.
And there's a little bit of everything that's wrong with this world that exists in Parent Pickup Line. And so after we get through the poop and the stank, we're going to talk some Parent Pickup Line because let's just, hey, some people need some Jesus and some Parent Pickup Line.
I love it. I
Let's
love it.
just put it that.
I love it. Well, G Money, man, thanks for everything, dude.
Yes, sir,
Appreciate
brother.
it. On to episode 3. You guys tune in.
Let's do it, buddy. See you guys.